Hello, I'm Jamie Flinchball, host of People Solve Problems, and today we have Pete Ruggiero. Pete, how you doing?
I'm well, Jamie. Thank you.
So great to see you. CEO as of this year of Crayola, longtime Crayolian, and an interesting career that led up to this role. Been in been in accounting, been in operations. Certainly now the CEO post has you in a wide range of responsibilities. Um, Culture, we want to talk about culture a bit today. It's always been very important to you. And there's a particular phrase that you use quite often around perpetual optimism. And so I was wondering if we could start there, maybe just talk about perpetual optimism, but also how it fits into your beliefs around culture and what you're trying to do there.
Well, Jamie, thanks for having me. Again, I've been at Crayola 27 and a half years. A lot of these ideas as CEO, I've been trying out since '07 as head of operations for Crayola and supply chain and as chief operating officer from during the pandemic, really from beginning of 2000 until the promotion in 2020 until 2024. Um, I, I would say where our strategy is evolving as a company is really to lead with culture, but then to drive growth. And the major element of growth is diversification in our business, whether that be through innovation, through where we do business internationally or in the U.S., licensing as a growth driver, our Crayola experience business model, and then most recently our Crayola Studios. But leading with that has been a culture emphasis that really drives us towards uh, being diverse and inclusive, leading with sustainability, having a global mindset in our work, because so often the trend is to focus entirely on North America, and there's so much opportunity outside of North America. But really, it's trying to be excellent in all we do, and that really goes back to our parent company Hallmark and some of the mindset ideas of J.C. Hall, the founder, who said he was hell bent on quality, and his son, second generation Hallmark leader, Don Hall Sr., who said he wanted to be excellent in everything we do. And then for us at Crayola, I've been trying to drive a thought track of building our legacy as a company. Several of us have been at this for 20 to 30 to 40 years. And for the time we have remaining, what do we need to do to build Crayola for the next quarter century and to really set the business up for the future? But the leading part of all of that, Jamie, is really back to some of the foundational elements of culture that I've been preaching in the operations supply chain role. And it's really five elements: bias for action. So, how can we seize every opportunity we can seize as quickly as possible? Collaboration. And I'll just say, becoming chief operating officer and having international operations and sales report to me was this wonderful opportunity to have a test lab. And when everybody just collaborates on problems, um, how much better we can be as a company. It's been a bit of a wonderful experience. I say celebration. We're not terribly great at celebration at Crayola. We have a great success, and then we're on to what's the next thing to do. And I do believe that celebrating successes gives you the energy to achieve the next great result. So spend a bit of time when you have a great success lingering and celebrating it. But then it really comes back to perpetual optimism. General Secretary Colin Powell said perpetual optimism is a force multiplier, and I think he was right. To the extent that we can be perpetually optimistic about what the potential is, to the extent that we speak favor over the business, it's possible that we're going to go do this. So many times, Jamie, I've seen the impossible happen just because we said out loud. I say, if you say it out loud, it's going to happen. If you think it, you have a pretty good chance it's going to happen. If you stop saying negative things about your business out loud, great things can happen, and invariably it does happen. And then the last piece of this culture is tying in celebrating problems. And this is something you've really brought to this business as an advisor and a friend and a coach. You know this, and you'd never say this out loud, but I will. You came to this business. We were really trying to do lean, and we were doing Six Sigma, and Six Sigma was working very well for us, and continues to. But I asked you to come in to just give me a clean assessment back in 2011 or 2012 of what you thought about our operations function. And I tell people, I got the report, read it. I had to put it down for a couple of weeks because it wasn't real positive, but it gave really a roadmap for what was possible. And the major element of this was to build an environment where we're celebrating our problems. And initially, my current boss was at the time the CEO of Crayola. Now he's CEO of all of Hallmark, and a very good man, Mike Perry. He said to me in my 2010 review, Pete, we're kicking problems under the carpet. We're not getting better every day. And he would say he wanted us to get a little better each day. We're not getting better each day because we're kicking problems under the carpet. And then you came and you helped us to make problems visible. And how do we get them out in the open ground? And when they're visible, then it's easy to identify the ones that are most urgent to solve, build credibility with the people that we can solve problems by collaborating and get a little better each day. And that has evolved to a mindset shift of celebrating problems. And as I've said to my leadership team, and I've said openly in town hall meetings, celebrating problems anymore, historically, it's not an operations thing. It's not a supply chain thing. The problems in the business exist across the value chain, across the organization. And to the extent that we can inoculate our thinking across the organization with this celebrate problems mindset, whoa, sky's the limit. I've been using some Vince Lombardi quotes, Jamie, and the first one is just an observation. I've used the power sweep as an analogy. This was what Vince Lombardi put in with the Packers when he first got there as head coach. And the first 3 years that he was head coach, and every time they ran the power sweep, it was 8 yards a carry. It was remarkable. And you say, wow, the power sweep must have been some real great innovative idea. But the reality is, when you hover up and look at, he had 6 Hall of Famers in that offense. So part of it is getting the best team on the field so that you can execute the impossible and realize great results in your business. But Lombardi said that we're gonna chase perfection, and if we chase perfection, we can achieve greatness. And it's an interesting mindset. Our leader of our Bethlehem plant, I got an interoffice envelope delivered to me about a month ago, opened it up, and it was a T-shirt, and it was for that plant. It was something all the people got, a T-shirt to celebrate their success this past year, and it had the Vince Lombardi quote on the back that we're going to chase perfection, and then as a result, we'll be able to achieve excellence. But the whole element of achieving excellence is, I believe, is foundational in those 5 parts. So, the celebrating your successes, being perpetually optimistic about what we can achieve, celebrating your problems as you make them visible, being biased for action, and then a very important element of this is collaboration. How do you collaborate to solve the problems you have?
Yeah. So let me that whole idea of perpetual optimism, and tying it to the Vince Lombardi quote of getting to perfection. There's also sort of the lean concept of ideal state. There are all these grandiose things about going to achieve things, but I think all of those ideas help you do hard things that are necessary to get to that ideal state, right? And so that perpetual optimism, why should I go work on hard things? Well, because I can achieve them. Um, and I think that's very, very powerful. Um, so let me tie on something else you said around the goals for the business, especially around diversification, both globally and with product. Um, I go back long ago when my son was really little, my youngest son was really little, and I was actually coming to visit you all at Crayola, and I told him I was going to Crayola. He said, "Are you going to make crayons?" I said, "No, it's not what I do." He said, "Well, are you going to put the paper on the crayons?" Um, because to him, those are the only two things you could possibly do at Crayola is either make crayons or put paper on crayons. And so the point is you have an iconic brand that is, tied to crayons and markers, but it's been expanding, but you have more ambitions for where you take it. In terms of perpetual optimism, how does that help you build on the great brand Crayola is with the idea that, hey, we can make it greater and we can go reach into new territory that we haven't before?
Yeah, it is a majestic. I'll say majestic brand. That's a term that Mike Perry uses to describe both the Hallmark brand and the Crayola brand. But we've been driving to this idea of inspiring creative moments, and to not just be about product, and not just to be about crayons, markers, and pencils. So, I'm here 27 years. When I came to this business, it was very much about back to school, 10 products, 10 weeks out of the year, crayons, markers, and pencils. And frankly, I'm not really sure what we did the rest of the year, because it was very much about back to school. And this business right now in the US is a year-round business focused on product, content, and experiences. And as we look to unlock the full potential of what this can be, it's evident that we're getting some wins. We've just launched the Stay Creative campaign, and the Stay Creative campaign. What we really wanted to understand, Jamie, what it is, that when we talk to parents and teachers, nine out of 10 parents and teachers believe that creativity is important, but many of them, most of them, have difficulty of how they can incorporate creativity into the everyday lives of their children. So we want to be there every time there's a creative moment that happens between a parent and a teacher, or a teacher with a child. We want to be there. But the perpetual optimistic mindset is, 97% of the world's kids are outside of North America, and we're completely under leveraged in bringing what we think is a wonderful, wholesome, creative development experience of it, using our brand and our colors and our experiences and our content, bringing that to people, to the children around the world. Just stating that out loud with people is a real opportunity. But I will say, over the years, stating big revenue targets that we want to do to grow to, or international expansion, or going into some additional categories that we're not currently in, there can be, without perpetual optimism, there can be a cynicism. There can be a mindset that, well, we've been here before, and that didn't work out for us. But what I've seen, whether it's been the growth in processes and capabilities during the pandemic, or it's just the capabilities that we've intentionally built in supply chain, in category management, in innovation, chemical engineering, in chemimechatronics, as we call it, which is the combining of chemicals, of mechanical and in electronics, with a pretty wow experience for consumers. These potential opportunities are leverageable to something much bigger than it currently is, and it's exciting. And then you talk about the Crayola experience, Jamie, and if you ever feeling down as a CEO of Crayola, just go I can just go 5 miles to downtown Easton and watch parents and children engage with one another with our brand and see the smiles. It's just a great experience, and I'm optimistic about what studios is going to be. We're launching some interesting properties in studios over the next few years, and we'll see where that goes. But media is a place that this brand belongs. It's a brand that is trusted by parents and by teachers. It's loved by children. It's an emotive brand, and being in the media space makes complete sense. By the way, as you and I travel a great deal, I just share this story that wherever I go, I try to wear, when I'm traveling, I try to wear my Crayola garb, my swag. And invariably, when I or any of our other leaders meet someone and they say, "Where do you work?" or they see my golf shirt that I'm wearing or my vest that says Crayola on it, the immediate reaction is you get a smile, and that's a wonderful point. And then you get a story.
Mm-hmm.
Someone tells a story, and then usually that story is about the $64 with the built-in sharpener. So I'll just share with you that invariably in markets outside of the US or Canada, I am told by our teams that we're not a crayon market, as an example. So maybe some of the Crayola color equity doesn't play, and I just don't believe that, because my consumer engagement experience of just being at airports or in retail outlets at countries around the world, or at a hotel restaurant or wherever I am, is many times it's the $64 with the built-in sharpener is the consumer experience. And I'm excited about what we can do to take the promise of our core product to more people around the world. I think maybe we've been under leveraging that.
Yeah.
One other point on the brand, I would say, this business, we very much, and it really comes from Hallmark. Hallmark's one of their missions is to help help the communities and to make the communities in which we live a better place. And last year, Crayolians, as we're called here in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania, we invested 14,000 hours of volunteerism the company gave $1.5 million, the company and its employees, to the United Way campaign. But we have a volunteer dinner every year where we celebrate people who volunteered their time and service to the community. And I just asked an open-ended question. We have these tip characters that have their own HVAC device inside so people don't suffocate. But we have employees who get in these things and go to events and shake hands and appear in pictures, etc. But I was just curious how many people in that room had been volunteered in a tip costume. And when I asked the question from the podium, it was 70% of the room, which shocked me with 140 people in a room. Shocked me how many events people go to, one, and two, how often that they participate in this. So I asked a couple of people, what's so magical about being in a tip costume? When they're in the tip costume, people forget the fact that there's a human inside and they think they're talking to Tip. And they get these childhood experiences or warm family experiences. And that's when you really realize that us helping parents and educators raise creatively alive kids as a mission, it's a deep mission. It's a powerful mission, and we're proud to do it.
Well, that's great. So the powerful mission, the perpetual optimism, go do hard things. Of course, optimism all by itself, right? And you've already connected the dots on several other of your cultural cornerstones, but optimism all by itself, right, can end up being toxic unless we face the challenges to go achieve it, which brings us back to celebrating problems. And so how do you make celebrating problems an enablement of that optimism instead of, in many cultures, we talk about problems, people get down, we we brush them under the rug, we do things like that. But of course, we can't solve them unless we see them. So how do you connect celebrating the problems and use that as a way to go, achieve the optimism and achieve the grand vision?
Yeah, well, you taught us to get, we say get your boots on, as they do at Toyota, Genshigen boots. So go see, to go do the floor walks and go and understand what the problems are, or go to retail. As we've progressed this to be more than just supply chain or manufacturing or logistics, but across the company. It's been great, Jamie, to see that the critical mass, as I would say, once the leadership team is bought into this idea of celebrating problems, and people start using it in the common language of the company, and people see that. For me, it's a couple of times I just raise my hand and say, "This is a my fault moment. This is something that I'm celebrating, that I made a mistake, and I want to understand what I could have done differently, or what we could have done differently as a result of that." If you make yourself vulnerable as a leader, and I see my leadership team and other senior leaders in the company making themselves vulnerable and saying, "Hey, we got a problem here," versus the old in many companies, or sometimes in this company, it's the somebody else has the problem, it's their fault. If they could just, you then drive to this, the best way to start is to begin. We have a problem. Let's acknowledge we have a problem. Nobody's getting fired because we have a problem. Okay, so once we get past that fear, and we get to a place that it's a healthy cultural dynamic to celebrate it and stand on the table and say, great. Because if you celebrate your problems and you fix them, now you're getting better. The most troubling point to me would be to know that we're not operating in a good way, or something's not optimal in the business, and no one thinks there's any problems.
Right.
Because then it's a zero-sum game. You're never getting better, and you're stuck where you are, and your competition's going to run past you.
Yep.
But I've been encouraged with the mindset shift here, of let's celebrate. And this has been, as you know, you came in 2011. We started our Six Sigma journey in 2007. This mindset of the Crayola operating system and structured problem solving that we developed with you, it has been a real enabler to the success of the business. So we did automation. In 2007, we made a decision that we were going to have close to market responsiveness as a critical strategy in supply chain. And some people were making decisions to move offshore or near shore. And we said, actually, we think we've got the potential here to automate and train our employees to be more effective as problem solvers and more efficient. And you build yourself to a place that you have the capability and the capacity and the responsiveness, because of your automation and the skill of your employees. You have the potential to respond to the unforecasted demand in season. And with our peak seasons, I'm looking at the back order report right now this morning for a holiday, with not a lot of shipping days left before holiday. And we've got of course, you've got some sourced items that you're waiting for the container to arrive, and you're going to unload it as quickly as possible, which we've also automated to take days out of that process. But we've got products still. Air dry clay is one, Color Wonder is one. Our core products, paints and watercolors, and that are for crafting at the holiday season, that we can respond right now and still get product to customers and to the shelf before that last peak week of holiday. And it is such a blessing. And it's we never would have gotten there and had this capability if we didn't turn the culture to say, well, what needs to be true to be better?
Yep. Let me ask you one last quick question. and I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but you've, had this incredible career. You're CEO of a majestic brand, Crayola. I also know you care very much about the people's development, about career development, career growth, and learning your way into your role and your future. So for listeners out there that aspire to be a CEO one day, what's your one nugget of advice for how they can shape their learning and growth to possibly one day be a CEO?
It's a couple of things. And it's just some of the advice that I have a chance to share with college students or our young professionals a couple of weeks ago, as I talk about my journey through. It's when opportunities come, and we like to do talent management, Jamie, where we hire from within and we tap people on the shoulder and say, we think you're optimal for this job. And it's really a great thing when they say yes to that. I had this several chances to go as a finance person, to go lead sourcing when I was young in my career at Crayola, Binney and Smith, and then to get tapped on the shoulder to say, we want you to move to Bedford, England and run the European business. That really wasn't convenient for my family and me at the time, but to do that and go live abroad and have that experience of leading a team and transforming a team and working with wonderful people. And those were two really big experiences for me. And so the first observation is, as young professionals are moving through their career, when opportunities come, just say yes. Trust your leaders that they know the path. The other side, I'll say, it's what I say is my dirty little secret. I was a Deloitte CPA for 6 years, and then I worked for a great company, Union Pacific, doing mergers, acquisitions, and SEC reporting, and Union Pacific. And they were moving me to Lisa and me to Dallas, Texas, and we decided that what's available here, and this Binney and Smith opportunity to be the plant controller at Binney and Smith came up, and I took the job, but I knew nothing about supply chain or operations, and my vast exposure to cost accounting was one class at Villanova. So I got some great advice by the head of operations, Rod Hine, at the time. And he said, lose the tie and go to the plant floor, learn every employee by first name, and listen to what their concerns are and understand their ideas, and see if you can do something. And what, that year, I was doing my MBA. I started my MBA at Lehigh at the same time. That year was just this mind-blowing experience of learning, because I'd see something on the plant floor or in the supply chain or in logistics at Crayola, and then I'd go to Lehigh at night and I'd see it in the classroom, or vice versa. And I was learning from these people, and one of the aha moments was some of these people they've had these ideas for 15, 20, 30 years, and no one ever did anything with them. And because of my finance knowledge and now my operations knowledge, I was able to partner with engineers much more smart than me, and we could actually develop solutions to problems. And we made those solutions we're still leveraging today in our manufacturing process. And it was empowering to the employees, and you got this culture that built on itself over time. So that I tell young professionals, just be a sponge. It's okay to acknowledge to yourself that you don't know something. It's not okay to just feel bad about it, right? Just go suck up every piece of knowledge that you can suck up, and you'll be surprised how quickly you learn and grow as a professional and as a human. And that's the second piece of advice I'd give.
That's fantastic. So seize the moment, do hard things, learn every day. Can't go wrong with that advice. So Pete, thank you for coming on, sharing your wisdom, and best wishes to you and the whole Crayola team.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate everything you do for us.
Are you a leader looking to level up your skills? Discover the Jay Flinch Learning Lab, your gateway to insightful video courses on culture change, management systems, problem solving, and much more. Immerse yourself into content created by me and transform your leadership approach. Ready to grow? Visit jflinch.com/learning lab and use code podcast for an exclusive 30% discount. Invest in your leadership journey today.